everybody, what's happening? I'm Tommy, and you are on the lifeboat. Hope you're having a good day. Sorry, it's been. I took a day or two off. It's been a. So as I said yesterday, I told you guys that I had a friend that found himself in the emergency room. The truth of the matter is, I have a family member that found themselves in the emergency room, but I don't share all of the details because the people that hate me take amazing joy in my suffering. So, but my family member is doing considerably better, which is awesome. It's very, very frightening for a couple of days, day and a half. It was pretty effed up, but feeling a little better about it. But I wanted to do a proof of life because people are starting to worry about me, which is I love you guys. It happens every time I don't make a video for a while, and that's kind of a cool thing, right? It really is. Clifton Ferguson, good to see you. Kristen Melinda, how are you? Timothy Glass, Barbara Aldrich, Cindy G. There's Tracy. That's my brother, you know. Did I say Barbara or did I say the other Aldrich? Sometimes it gets confusing. Well, I'm glad you're both here if you are. There's Jane. There you are. Lisa Trimble, good to see you, Lisa. Glad that you're here. Cindy G, I think I said that. Let's see. We got a lot to talk about, people. We really do, because there's a lot going on in the world. Hey, Monk. Roberta, good to see you. Glad you're here, Monk. Glad you're here, Roberta. All right. So if you've been following along, the Karen Reed trial plods forward. If you've been following that at all, then I think the takeaway from this one, in my humble opinion, is if by some chance Karen Reed does not get convicted on this, I mean, she does get convicted. If she's not doesn't end up walking, then what's going to happen is she is going to appeal this case, and she's going to have some bulletproof appellate issues when she takes it to the to the appellate courts. One of them is they allowed an expert witness to change his testimony, write a complete new report one day before he was supposed to testify. Says he did it all on his own, no problem. But when they got him on cross-examination, he said, yeah, I did reach out and talk to the prosecutor the day before that, but he wasn't telling me anything to do. It's so crooked. It's absolutely disgusting. If by some chance this becomes an appellate case, Blue Bayou, good to see you. Blue Bayou, I'm sorry that you're enduring the hate, because that's ugly stuff. Amy? Bobby Hurst, good to see you. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Blue Bayou, but it's that kind of world, isn't it? Joseph Burbo, what's happening, man? Good to see you. So if by some chance this gets in front of any kind of appellate court, then that judge is gone. It's plain and simple. That judge will be gone. It is such an egregious example of the fix being in, of a judge that absolutely made up her mind in the case prior to entering the room. And the decisions have been so one-sided that you honestly almost have to be damaged goods if you don't see it. For real, it's amazing how equal one side of the justice is on this. I am of the firm opinion, and you guys can weigh in on this if you'd like. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate you, man. He says, good to see you, brother. Keep up the great work. Thank you. You can weigh in on this if you want, guys. You can do it with a deuce. Do you think that the judge in the Karen Reed case, Auntie Bev, is going to quit, right, the second this trial's over? I am absolutely going out on a limb here and saying this is probably going to be the last case that this woman ever tries. She's going to have to get out of that office and fast. If you were doing this and no one was watching, you're pushing the robe, the bench way too far. But with the entire world watching, she's got no career when this is over. She just doesn't. I mean, there's no way anybody that looks at this impartially. No, forget whether Karen Reed is guilty or not, because that's not really what's at question. I mean, it is and it isn't. But right now, we're just talking about Auntie Bev. And if you see a judge that is 80% in the tank, I mean, just painfully obvious in the tank for the prosecution, then that's a problem, especially when you start seeing stuff like they were doing a voir dire process, right? Now, you probably all know the voir dire process when it comes to trying to pick a jury, right? The voir dire process is just asking questions, right, to try to find out whether or not the person would make a good juror. But they also do voir dire when they get a yes, a judge can be fired, man. Probably write a book, says Joseph Barebone. You know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. She would definitely write a book. Sadly, that's probably the case. Cindy G says, I think she'll be fired. I do too. I do too. I definitely think that there's a decent chance of that. But they're doing voir dire on an expert witness. And the prosecutor, keep in mind, when you voir dire a witness, the jury's not there. They can't hear you. So it's a really great opportunity to watch the prosecution and the defense act like dicks, right? They don't want to anger a jury. So they all try to play this game where they kind of keep it, at least they pretend that there's some kind of civility. But when the jury's gone, this guy was, the prosecutor was trying to get the guy from ARCA, right? That's that one of the experts that had been used by the FBI when the FBI was investigating Trupa Procta and how bad he screwed up the case in the first place. That's how the defense found this guy. He had written a report. They had written a report about all of the phone stuff, and they're experts, so to speak. So he's trying to get this guy to admit that the defense gave him a pile of money. And when that didn't work, he said, well, they've obviously traded something. And when that didn't work, he was like, how about dinners? Did you guys go out to any of this? And you realize that he really was hoping or thinking that the person was going to say, well, yeah, I've eaten a few dinners with him, but that doesn't, nothing. And when that happened, he looks over at Auntie Bev, right? So he's over there doing this one. And he looks at Auntie Bev and he goes, I mean, as plain as day, this prick looks at the judge and shakes her off like a catcher, right, that doesn't want to see a curveball. Ugly for the world to see. But there it is. I mean, it's collusion. If you watch it, there's no missing it. Absolutely no missing it. And then he finished up like this, and Auntie Bev ruled in favor of the defense because the prosecutor basically, gave her the sign. We're not going to win this one. So Lisa Ayers, good to see you. Glad you're here. Hey, Liz Weed. So I am of the firm belief that they are going to get rid of this woman if she sticks around long enough to be fired. I think she will probably take a retirement right after this case is over. It would be in her best interest. It really would be in her best interest because she looks like hammered shit in this. She looks like somebody that, I don't know what, taking bribes. You know what I mean? Taking bribes. That could be it. Legit. Maybe she's taking bribes, but I don't think that's the case. Exciting days ahead, Tommy Scoville. No, I don't think anybody's ready. In that vein, we're going to be heading out. We were supposed to leave today to go see the Diddy show. We were actually supposed to get on a plane today, but that's not possible with what's been going on with the family. So we're rescheduling, but I anticipate us flying out early next week, mid next week at the latest. Brad says she is 60 years old. This is early retirement for her. Plus, she doesn't turn on her makers. Yeah, my opinion. Brad, I think you're probably spot on with this, right? Because what we're watching right now is some kind of a synergistic relationship between somebody on that prosecution and the judge. I've talked about this a million times, but what happens is over a long career of you being a detective or you being a cop or you being whatever, prosecuting attorney, there's going to be those days where you go into the judge's office and you go, hey, I need a search warrant. And they look everything over and Auntie Bev looks out and goes, this is really thin, right? There's nothing here to justify me giving you a search warrant to go kick someone's door. And this is way too thin. And then the prosecution says something along the lines of, listen, if we can get that door open, everything I'm telling you is in there is going to be in there, right? Now, there are people out there that would say ends justify the mean, man, right? The ends justify the means. Maybe it's okay to get you a slightly sketchy search warrant. But the first time that happens, the first time the judge goes, all right, I'm going to sign this. They better come out with something on this. Wharton Fissel, good to see you. Archie's mom, what's happening? Then they own you. And I don't mean they're going to blackmail you. I don't mean any of that. But if you happen to come into the courtroom of a judge who has signed 2 or 3, right? 2 or 3 bunk search warrants, or had a couple of rulings that were just simply wrong, where they went out of their way to make sure that people disappeared, went into prison for long periods of time, right? It's like a cop, right? A prison guard who brings in dope. You know, inmate starts talking to a guy, says, we can make a lot of money, man. You make 5 times whatever you're working for here, right? And you meet my friend. You ain't got to buy anything. You meet my friend. He's going to give you a couple of bags. You bring it in. It's a one-time deal. We'll never do it again. You bring that in. It's like 4 ounces. I could give you 3 or 4 grand, right? And then when I finish selling all of it, I could probably give you another 10. And the dude brings in the dope, right? And immediately they say to him, oh, you're bringing in more. And he goes, no, it's a one-time deal. Oh, no, it's not. You're going to bring in more. In fact, you're meeting my friend, and this time he's going to give you a cell phone. He's going to give you some dope. He's going to give you cash, right? These are all things I want brought in, and you're going to bring them in. Because if you don't, I'm just going to go down and tell them exactly what happened, right? And there's about 4 inmates that watched you hand that shit off to me. You get dirt on somebody and you're a lowlife, then you can own them, especially if what you're threatening is going to end their career or land them in prison, which probably both could happen to Auntie Beth. But whatever happened to bring these people together, from the day they walked into that courtroom, she has been in the tank trying to get them a victory. And if you ask my humble opinion, it's because she knows that he was not killed by being hit by a car. He was killed by a bunch of drunk cops and feds in a basement, a bunch of people who drank too much. You look an hour before, 45 minutes before they were at the house, and what were they doing? Standing inside a bar, shaffazed, throwing back one shot after another and squaring off and acting like they were getting ready to fight. I mean, it may be nothing. For real, guys are idiots. We do that kind of stuff. But it also might mean that when these guys get really gassed up, they tend to wrestle around. They tend to punch people. I had two friends from South Boston, Patrick and Brendan, a couple of good Irish boys. They used to get in fist fights. My brother could tell you almost every Friday night without fail. And if not, maybe Saturday, but usually we would all go out on Fridays. And Brendan and his brother were going to get in a fist fight. It's bizarre, right? But these people just, a lot of times when people get really gassed up, you know, the aggression comes out, and there's cultures that's just not all that big a deal. And I'm of the firm belief that this is that kind of culture, right? A lot of testosterone, a lot of drunk dudes, right? Look at the text messages that they were sending talking about Karen Reed. Does that sound like a cop to you? I mean, screw the cop thing. Does that sound like somebody over the age of 16? Talking about a leaky balloon knot. Why? Because the woman had colon cancer. Kind of a tough thing to clown about. But yeah, you know, great ass, but she's got a leaky balloon knot. Going through her phone, haven't found any nudes yet. And what's funny is they'll go, it's, you know, even the feds, man. The feds come and investigate and say, yeah, it's not, there's no misconduct. We didn't find that these people are actually trying to, to cheat. We didn't find that. We're going to fire the lead investigator, right? He did stuff so stupid that he's never going to be a cop again. And this man was a Massachusetts state trooper. You have any idea how hard it is to get fired if you're a Massachusetts state trooper? Troopers in any state. But Mass is a little different. And anybody that's from Massachusetts will absolutely agree with me. And I've said it before. I will say it again. It depends on what part of the country you're in, right? But if you grew up in the Northeast, it is feasible that your dad, your granddad, and your great-granddad all could have been cops, right? Especially in Boston area. I mean, Boston has been around since before we were a country. So there are stories of these families that just have unbelievable one after another. Everybody worked for the police. If you didn't, they might disown you kind of thing. And that thin blue line where they protect one another. They all go out and drink together. They do barbecues together. Everything they do is just a bunch of cops, right? And they hear stories, right, from the retired guys and all that. And every one of those stories, I promise you, because prison guards are the same way. They don't tell you the story of the time that they arrested a guy and we did everything right. right? We filled out all the paperwork exactly how it was supposed to be done. We made sure we did not violate his civil rights. Those aren't the stories that get told when everybody's shit-faced. It's the story of a guy they knew was dirty. They knew this dude was a scumbag. He's a bad man. But we couldn't get a warrant. We couldn't get anything. So what do? We planted some dope on him. And there are people on this planet that will say the means justify the ends. Right? It's okay. If the guy's really a bad person, then who cares what it takes to get him locked up, right? But the trouble is, each subsequent generation of cops, they grew up hearing that shit, right? So when they're telling it, the next generation, it's like everything else. They're going to raise the bar a little bit more. And now, as great-grandsons turning into a man and could possibly end up being a cop, he's hearing the story of, we used to keep a spare piece on us. You know what I mean? Because if you knew the guy's a bad dude, if you knew that he's out there slinging dope and poisoning people in your neighborhood, I mean, hell, the guy sells to elementary and high school kids. So you catch him in an alley, and he goes like this. And you put one right in the center of his chest. Why? Because he's a bad dude. And it's going to save the state a bunch of money prosecuting him. And it's going to save him $30,000 a year to incarcerate him. And the world's going to be a better place with this dude gone. So shoot him in the chest, and then they take out a piece, right? He goes over, puts it in the dude's hand, gets some fingerprints, kicks it about 1.5 feet away from the guy, because a cop would never leave a gun in a guy's hand. And there it is, right? Cut and dry. Dude pulled a gun on me. I fired before he did. You got any idea how many times that's happening in this world? Proctor didn't lose his pension, though. Disgraceful. He might end up losing his pension later on. It has always been assumed that you can't lose your pension, right? For real. Like, no matter how bad you screw up, they are not going to take your pension. They took Drew Peterson's, the cop. They took his pension. And he was more pissed about that than anything. He's trying to fight that in the Supreme Court. And I don't know. I don't know anything about that kind of law. But if they're never supposed to be able to do it and they got away with it once, I don't know. It seems odd. But he's not a good dude, right? He's not a good dude. So the means justify the ends, or the ends justify the means, or whatever that goes. But the FBI looked into her as well, and all of them. They did. They absolutely did. But keep in mind this. Keep in mind this. They're all law enforcement. They're all law enforcement. And I guarantee you that they sat in a room and said something along the lines of, we take out Proctor. We put it all on him, right? And they can retry this case. This is a pressure cooker. If we go in and say the cops, right, set this person up, the cops murdered this guy in the basement. That was really their job, was to go in and find out whether or not they murdered this dude in the basement, and then they pinned somebody on it, right? Tried to pin it on Karen Reed. The more you watch this trial, every single day, there's some new piece of evidence that comes out. The defense on this is incredible. They're killing it, man. Will they look into all of her cases? Well, see, that's the problem, Cindy, and I'm really glad that you said that. It's a great question, because this is why the FBI doesn't come out and say, this is crooked. Bev's crooked. This guy's crooked. They're all crooked. Because what if you do? What if you say, Karen Reed didn't have anything to do with this? John O'Keefe was killed by cops who then tried to blame it on somebody else. If you say that, well, then now you've got to look at that department, right? And that department isn't just, you got Boston cops, you got whatever the name of that town is where the Sallyport was, where they took everything. I can't think of the name of it right now. But the local cops, right? You had the state boys, right? The troopers. And then you had feds there. You had like 4 or 5 different law agencies. And you'd have to look into all of them, wouldn't you? How many cases have they done this on? How many cases did they plant evidence? How many cases did they cheat? How many cases did they maybe whack somebody and then try to put it on someone else? They would have to look into every single case that any of these cops ever did. And a lot of times, it's like perjury. You understand the concept of perjury? If I get on a stand and they ask me a question, Tommy Scoville, have you ever committed a felony? And I go, no felonies. Never done it. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm 100% sure. When that shit is over, they're going to charge me, right, for perjury. And I could get about up to 12 years if they really want to be dicks. I knew guys in the feds that were doing 12 years for lying to FBI agents, not even on the stand. Just in the course of an investigation, completely BSing the FBI can get you incarcerated, which is pretty wild if you think about it, right? Because they lie constantly. The difference between what they can get away with and what the inmate can get away with. The FBI absolutely looked into all of these people, but you're never going to get any one of them to crack, just like the perjury. Find me a cop that's been charged with perjury. Find me a cop anywhere that's been charged with perjury. It doesn't happen. So you're going to tell me the cops don't lie on the stand? They got caught lying on the stand every single friggin' day. So why don't they get charged? Well, because people like Auntie Bev don't want the cops hating them. They don't want the prosecutors hating them. If they decide to go after a cop for lying on the stand, they're done. Right? Now you've got a hostile work environment. The people whose job it is to get you the evidence so you can convict people, they don't really trust you anymore. They don't. So that thin blue line, it ain't that thin. It really isn't. And it's accepted. And one of the fascinating things about the Karen Reed trial is the thin blue line. There's a lot of women in this case that never worked for the cops who really look like they do. Right? Jennifer McCabe, it looks to the uneducated, observer that she kind of handled all of this. She was sort of running this show, so to speak. Jennifer McCabe, right? Thin blue line. See, she's part of this environment. When they go to barbecues, everybody there's in law enforcement. They go on vacation, everybody there's in law enforcement. They go to Christmas friggin' dinner, right? Everybody there. Family reunions, they're all cops. This is a very, very thick thing in the Northeast. And they will protect each other till the absolute bitter end. Because if you're somebody that doesn't do that, man, yes, you're a scumbag. You will be ostracized. It's not just, hey, man, and people will say, right, somebody that works in internal affairs just flips the script and says, I didn't do this. You made me do this. You forced good cops, right, to have to charge you for the crap you've done. They're never going to forgive you. In fact, the cops that work and do internal affairs come in two varieties. There are the guys that don't do anything. And then there are the guys who are so hated by all of the people on the force that they've got more to worry about from their fellow officers than from anybody else. If Karen is found not guilty, my guess is the case will go cold. Hey, Paisley Turtle. Bank on it. Bank on it. Too late. You understand? Too late. As a cop, when you arrive at the death scene, at the murder scene, and a guy's laying dead on the front yard, and allegedly, at the time, they thought he had a highball glass, which had come from either inside that house or maybe from a bar, but he had a broken highball glass. And all the cops who showed up there at the very beginning said what? Did they say, wow, this guy looks like he got hit by a car? Nobody said that. They said, this dude got his ass kicked. Okay? And they said that because other than some furrows in his arm that looked like they were probably made by a dog, right? Maybe a shepherd. Maybe a shepherd that would get donated, right? They just decided to give that dog a better home in Vermont. Of course, they decided that basically that night. You can't make this shit up. If you hadn't seen all this, as they start to roll it out, you sit there going, what the deuce? But there's no chance that they're going to be able to build a case because, number one, they sold the house, right? The family home. Yeah, they got out of that baby as fast as they could. Yeah, before they could luminol it, before they could decide to come in with warrants and do all that, they dumped the house, right? Been in the family forever. They dumped the house and they gave away the dog. These things look a little suspicious to you. But since they didn't go inside, since they didn't question anybody that was in that friggin' house, I got a question for you. If you come over to someone's house. It's your sister's house or it's your brother's house, right? Hey, Karen, let's say you go over to a relative's house and you find a dead body on the front yard. And there's lights doing this number, right? Cops are there. People are screaming. It's out of control, right? Absolutely out of control. Wouldn't you wonder if your sister or brother inside could be in danger? Maybe they're a victim too. This person's laying dead on the lawn. Wouldn't you be freaked out? Karen Reed wasn't. Karen Reed didn't seem to be too concerned about that at all. And that doesn't smell right. Doesn't. Does that pass the smell test? You show up and there's a dead body on your sister's lawn, you're going to go make sure your sister's all right. And when she did, right, eventually she went in there. Everybody was still asleep. The old 1-3. Everybody was still asleep. Because sleeping through a woman screaming at the top of her lungs, and I don't mean for effect, right, or being dramatic or whatever. This is loss. This is somebody that's looking at the dude that she's been with for 2 years laying dead, and the panic that she might have been, she may have had something to do with it. Karen Reed blacked out. She blacked out. She didn't remember what happened. I promise you. So that morning, the screams coming from Karen Reed were the screams of somebody terrified and in anguish, right? But it didn't wake up anybody inside. The cops, the lights flashing, all that stuff, nope. They slept right through it. And guess what? They are all first responders. Whole damn house full of first responders. When she did wake him up, they said, I'm not going to go out there. I'm not going to do anything to make it more difficult on them. I'll just check. I'll just wait in here. Again, doesn't pass the smell test. There's a cop dead on your lawn. You're a cop, right? You're not going out there to find out what happened to your friend. Nah, we'll let the local guys take care of this, right? It's not our jurisdiction on this thing at all. Bullshit. I'm not buying that at all. BS. They'd want to be out there just to be out there. I agree with Johnny Scoville and apparently Monk as well. And I think a lot of other people. Brian Albert is probably the man that killed. Well, I think he may have started the fight. He had the hots for Karen Reed. He knew that Karen was dating this guy. And you go out to a bar and you see the girl that you really want to be with and get with. And she's over there, arm around her new guy. And they're throwing back shots and having a good time. And by his own words, she ghosted him. Right? She just stopped having anything to do with it. It just wasn't going to bother. So I would imagine he was a little salty that night. And not only does the girl stand them up kind of thing, just sort of stiffs him, but after that happens, great question. After that happens, they get invited back to this after party, right? We closed the bars. Now we're going back for an after party. Put a deuce in the chat if you stopped going to after parties in your late 20s, early 30s. And you know what? If you're a degenerate like I was, maybe you do that until your late 30s or early 40s. But these are a bunch of grown-ass men that work for law enforcement agencies. But they're going back because they didn't get enough boozing, right, at the 2 bars that they were drinking at. So they got to cruise on back to a after party and do some more drinking. I think Brian Albert probably started the fight. But I think a bunch of people jumped in because that happens, man. That happens. It's sad but true, especially when everybody in the room is family, except the guy who ended up dead. Right? Now, doesn't mean they were all related, right? They could be related by marriage. They may not be related at all, but Jen McCabe summed it up. She said, no, these people are family. They're family. I believe it was one of the kids' birthdays. Does his family believe Karen did this? Lisa Ayers, that's a great question. They get 2. If the Commonwealth comes up with another mistrial, she's free. They can never charge her again. They will have to dismiss it, and they will have to dismiss it with prejudice. Does his family believe that Karen did this? So, Brian Higgins, thank you. This is a tough question. And the reason it's a tough question is he's a cop, right? The guy that ends up killed is a Boston cop. And the environment I was talking about earlier, within that environment, right? Within that environment, the family, it's Brian Higgins. What did I say? Anyway, I said something else apparently. They're going to end up protecting cops. They're going to end up protecting cops. They're going. Brian Albert, thank you. Brian Higgins, thank you. JBZ, good to see you. Thank you. Appreciate that. So yeah, they believe Karen did it. And you know what? If you were the family and you heard the text messages of her cursing and screaming at him, she didn't do herself any real freaking favors by doing a bunch of interviews either. It just was a bad idea, right? In my humble opinion, it's a really bad idea to go out and do the interview. And depending on what part of the country you're from, sometimes people from the Northeast don't sound like they don't sound loving and kind. We tend to have accents, right, that make us sound a little harder than we. And I don't mean harder, but I mean there's not a softness to the Boston accent, right? It's just a little different. But I think that they're living in hell. This has got to be so hard for them. Listening to Karen Reed in that unbelievable Falmouth? Where I can't remember where she's from, but she's got a very heavy accent, right? Fall River, maybe. She's got a really serious accent, and she's lighting this guy up. She's pissed. She thinks he went in that house, right? She thinks he went in that house and was having sex, right? She thinks that he went in there, and she said it, right? You're probably lying next to some other woman. She was losing it. And if he went in there and decided not to come out and just left her outside, they had been beefing a little. Their relationship was on the rocks. So she was pissed, super pissed. The family had to listen to that. And I would imagine that's going to be very, very difficult to get over. Hello, Auckland, New Zealand. Hey, Boston accent is always telling you off. I mean, there's something to that, right? There is something to that. There's the fact that they didn't bring an with them when they started the whole thing. Brookline, there we go. That may be it. No, I think I want to say Fall River. Maybe I'm wrong, but they. So John O'Keefe's family is going to stand with the cops. That's what they're going to do. They're going to back the judge. They're going to back the prosecutor. You understand that cops hate defense attorneys. We heard what Trooper Proctor and his friends said about. Hold on one second. You're good. Archie's mom says, I think it's a great accent. Look, I grew up in that part of the world, right? That's what I heard, until I was probably 18 or 19. Almost everybody I knew talked like that. And the ones that I knew that didn't talk like that talked like they were from New York, which is another similar accent. The New Yorkers can say their R's, but you get the coffee. There's a different kind of they get confused a lot, especially if you're not from the Northeast. Like people from the Midwest will say, oh, are you from Boston? And they say it to people from New York all the time. I like the accent. I really do. But it doesn't sound, you wouldn't want to do in Shakespeare, right? Probably wouldn't want to do Shakespeare with a Boston accent. What light through yonder window break? Right? Yeah. Or Macbeth. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps at its shitty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all them yesteryears lighted many fools the way to dusty death. Out. Yeah. Brief candle. Life is but an illusion. A poor player who struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard from no more. It's a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. They're not hiring people from Boston to be public speakers. I'm not being disrespectful, but they're not. One of the number one rules when you're a public speaker is they don't trust New York accents and they don't trust Boston accents. If you can't get rid of that accent, then you're not going to get hired. And I had to work with it. I had to absolutely work on it. Professor Patty. Or telemarketing. Same thing. Exact same thing. If you get a hard New York accent or a hard Boston accent as a telemarketer, there's no chance that anybody's going to be Yeah, just doesn't work, man. Doesn't work. I was a pretty big fan of Shakespeare. I could do that all night, actually. I'm a fan, and it sounds a lot better if I don't do it in a Boston accent. Yes, the Boston accent is the closest to British, but it's much harder than British. Hold on one second. Yeah, you're right. This is actually a pretty good point. She should be perp walked out of her chambers. She absolutely should be perp walked out of her chambers. But the Karen Reed and those messages she left on the phone, right, sounding like Karen Reed and leaving all those messages is the reason that she's in the crap storm that she's in, right? We talk all the time here. We talk a lot about, I thank you, Sammy Sue. We talk about trying to control ourselves. And one of the sort of the fascinating thing is that you probably shouldn't allow your emotions to make decisions for you. Doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Our emotions don't work on the same part of our brain as the executive function, right? And emotions, you know what emotions are, right? People throw beer bottles against walls. People punch things. Or they're so in love that they can't even see what's going on around them, right? That person could be the worst choice for them on earth, and they will be the last one to see it. And because a lot of us have been addicted to dope, Proctor did lose his pension. Wow, if you could back that up, I would love that. I would love that. Hopefully he did. He's not a good man. One of the things that we talk about here on the boat, because most of us have dealt with some pretty serious issues with substances. One of the things we talk about is how do you turn off the emotion and turn on the executive function of the brain? Grab a pen, sit down and start journaling. Just the act of taking the stuff in your head and making it come out your right or left hand will not allow the emotional part of your brain. They can't fire at the same time. They simply can't. And the reason I bring that up is people that can't control their emotions are terrifying. Terrifying. And whether that emotion is love or hate or anger or jealousy, any emotion running wild is a pretty terrifying thing. What we were talking about, for those who just got here, had been the Karen Reed case up until about 38 minutes in. We've been talking about where we're at in the Karen Reed trial. I think that, here, do me a favor. Put a deuce in the chat if you think Karen is going to be found not guilty. Put a 3 in the chat if you think she's going to be found guilty. Now, the second thing that we were going to touch on briefly is the Diddy verse. Right? Because there's a lot of really crazy stuff that have happened. A woman with out of control emotions is petrifying. Professor Patty? Yes. There's a lot of truth to that. Right? There really is. There's a lot of truth to that. So, Kid Cudi. We've been hearing about this forever. And it's funny how you hear stuff that's just not right. Right? For instance, Kid Cudi's car that had been blown up was a Rolls-Royce Corniche. Right? Soft top. They cut the top to throw a Molotov cocktail in. That's the story that we've been hearing. Turns out it's a Porsche. I'd have been a lot more pissed off if they burned my 911. I mean, Rolls-Royce Corniches are great, but they're not Porsche 911s. And if you had a turbo or you had, a GT or any of those are really expensive cars, man. Really. Yes, no question. No question. But men tend to resort to violence. Like if it's two guys beefing, they're going to swing at each other, right? If they really get into it, they're going to beat the piss out of each other. And when they walk away, they're either going to be friends for life or they're never going to talk to each other ever again. And that's kind of how that goes down. With women, they could take the next 6 or 7 years to just destroy you, right? Your reputation. They'll call you a slut, right? They'll trash your kids, and they'll do all of this sort of behind the scenes. There are psychology books written about this. Young boys fight, right? Instantly. First thing they go to is, all of it. It's just what happens with young boys. It's testosterone. And young girls destroy the reputations of their friends, right? If they get upset at somebody, they just start talking trash about them like you see in the Mean Girl movies and shit, because that's real. It really is. So men are probably more dangerous. I mean, as far as the immediate danger, because they're more likely to hit you. But over the long term, I'd rather be punched in the face. I'd rather be punched in the face than have have somebody assassinate your character is pretty tough. And character assassination is the difference between young boys and young girls, and we don't outgrow it. Unfortunately, we really don't. Over time, right? Guys, hopefully, and women as well, learn to come up with a couple of tricks so that when they're starting to really get into the rage and they're starting to lose it, they can sit down, they can journal, they can do things to try to turn on the executive part of their brain so that better decisions can be made. But Kid Cudi's car. So he took the stand today, and by all accounts, he had everybody there laughing, and the rest of the testimony today was kind of foundational stuff. This isn't the most exciting of testimonies. I mean, the people that are at the Diddy trial they want to hear about the crazy stuff he did. We spent the last year hearing that he raped everybody in America. You know, there was going to be 130 different cases coming out. Didn't turn out that way. But you remember the story? There was a press conference. There was a press conference that morning, and he talked about the youngest victim is 9. There's also a 14-year-old victim. Both of those were boys. And he went on. He said half of the 130 people reported this to the police, or he said around half, and around half also went to the hospital, went to the emergency rooms, got a rape kit done, or that kind of thing. I mean, was he just making that shit up off the top of his head or what? That's scary. It really is. It's scary. And he never got permission to practice law in the Southern District of New York. So all of those people, all he really did was get a cool 800 number, right? He got a cool 800 number. And when the people called in, he did a bunch of interviews with them. And now he's handing those off to lawyers who are actually able to practice law in the Southern District of New York. And he'll get a little kick off the top. Man, that's effed up. You already got Elvis involved. Decided it must be fake news. It could be. It absolutely could be. Hey, for always, forever life, forever, for always, for life. Good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. And I think I got that right. I don't. Unicorn Love, I never guessed with a lovely name like Unicorn Love. Speaking of the original unicorn, I learned today that a rhino horn can be up to 5 feet long, and it's made of hair. Did you know that? True story. You can look it up. It's all keratin, same thing that hair is made up of. It's so basically it's like a really rugged ponytail that they could run through your chest if they really wanted to. And yeah, they get big. That's one of the gnarliest animals on earth. They're fast as hell. You can see them run. They're a vicious animal. And cool, forget about it. I do like looking at them. And it's rhinoceros or rhinoceros. I had a nephew when I was younger. When he was a little kid, he used to call it a rhinotner. And you know, you don't want your relative to say things wrong because, you know, we all want to communicate. We let him say that for about 1.5 years because it was just so great to hear. He was a really, really cute kid. Now he's a grown man. I saw him the other day and jeez, man, it's crazy. Tommy, I've missed some Diddy streams, so apologies if you have spoken on this, but why do you think Diddy is going through this testimony? I think he's trying for a juror. When the raid on MDC Brooklyn happened last summer, remember? They went and did a raid and they grabbed some books from Diddy, and they were the kind of thing that people take notes in, just like notepads, you know, or composition. Whatever. And Diddy, being new to the whole convict thing, did not write legal mail, right? Across the entire thing, which is what you have to do if you don't want cops reading your shit. Now, they'll open it and they'll fan the pages out and shake it so that if there's a razor blade or a tattoo needle or a binky or any of the things that you're not supposed to have, right? They'll try to shake it out, but they're not supposed to read it. That's one of those things that is rules, right? If it says legal mail on it. Diddy didn't write that down. So we got a chance to look at it. And one of the things that he had said in that paper, allegedly, more than once, he said, we only need one. We only need one, right? That's a guy that knows he's guilty. You know, if you're sitting in jail saying, all I got to get is one juror to believe me. If you're innocent, you're thinking all 12 are going to believe me. I didn't do anything wrong. They can't convict somebody that's innocent right in this country because we all would like to believe that shit, even if it's not true. Susan, good to see you. But yes, I do think he's trying for a juror. I do think that if he can pick one of these off, he thinks he's going to have a chance at winning this. You know what's interesting, though? When the people come out, right? When they come out of the court, there's a lot of people asking questions, right? And it seems like all the people walking out of that are on the same page, right? When they start talking, I don't mean the jurors, obviously. I'm talking about people in the peanut gallery. And most people think that that the prosecution is painting a fairly decent case. Here's the deal. If you can come up with a couple of predicate crimes that happen over the course of 10 years, right, then you're going to probably be able to pin the RICO thing on him. Kid Cudi coming in there and saying, dude blew up my car, right? And if dude blew up my car because Capricorn, right, is his personal assistant, if she was riding in that car because Diddy forced her to, you need to go with him and handle this. Sounds bad, right? Sounds like forced labor. Sounds like kidnapping. But forget that. They already brought in the choppers, the street sweepers, right, with obliterated serial numbers and huge ass extra capacity magazines that could take 100 bullets and stuff, right? They already brought those in, showed them to the jurors. To have a semi-automatic weapon that has obliterated serial numbers and extra large capacity magazines, oh, that's a felony, right? And it's a big felony, and it absolutely goes towards showing that yes, indeed, this is a criminal operation, right? This is honestly a criminal organization. You hear a lot of people going, "That just doesn't make sense on the RICO thing at all." By the way, this isn't a RICO case of one person. There's going to be a lot of other people that are going to get hemmed up in this. But we're not going to know. For instance, a couple of days ago, right, they had a guy on the stand, and the guy said, I'd like to plead the fifth. And the judge said, I got a better idea. Why don't you just tell us everything, and nothing that you say here today can be used against you, right? Now you can't say, I want to plead the fifth, invoke my Fifth Amendment rights. This can't incriminate you anyway. So this is the decision that people, need to make. Are you going to be a defendant? Or are you going to be a witness? And I think that that's a pretty easy decision for most folk. I don't think it was an easy decision when this started, and everybody thought maybe there was a chance. Hey, Brad, I know how you feel, man. Susie Style, thank you so much. Welcome. You look great and green. Yeah, you know what, man? Another mistrial. The fix is in my opinion. Well, if it is, the only way they're going to do it is to buy a juror. That would be the only way they're going to pull it off. And I'd be shocked if, I don't know. I mean, it might happen. I really hope it doesn't. If it doesn't, here's the other thing. It's not going to help Diddy much. I promise you. So if you're an upstanding member of society and you're being charged with a federal crime, and that federal crime turns out, hey, it's my friend from South America. Good to see you. If that turns out to be a mistrial, and we, hopefully that's not the case. We really hope that it is not. But if it is declared a mistrial, more often than not, the person who's in jail gets to go home, right? Until they have the next trial, because it's kind of cruel and unusual punishment to keep the person locked up, right? So very often the judge will say, it's going to be a home confinement. We're going to put an ankle monitor on you, or that kind of crap, right? But that's the kind of thing that they do if it's a mistrial. No way they do that with Diddy. No way. Not going to happen. If this is a mistrial, they're going to keep him in jail. They're going to keep him in jail. I promise you they are. He's got way, way too much, right? With inflation, jurors have to be a fortune. That's funny, Unicorn Love. That is, nothing less than $1 million. Well, what's your freedom worth? What's your freedom worth? But one juror isn't going to make you innocent. One juror is going to maybe be able to just keep you from getting convicted, right? Having a mistrial. But where we're at in this, honestly, I don't think if he had gotten away with all of the crap he was doing when he first got to MDC Brooklyn, I would be more concerned about it. But Diddy got in there and started using pack numbers from other guys. They didn't hem him up. They listened. They listened to all of the people he was calling, the things he was saying, and they took notes. So if Diddy was to reach out from inside, then they know who he was reaching out to. I promise you. All of that stuff got hemmed up. And not just that, but the books I was talking about earlier. He had listed who he thought he could buy, who he should intimidate. Now, these weren't potential jurors. These were people that allegedly he raped, right? Can I scare this one, or do I have to give some money to this one? But they shut that crap down, right? They shut that crap down. Yeah, I would imagine Jaguar Wright's doing a victory lap. Nia, I would say that there's a decent chance of that. There's a lot of people clowned her pretty hard when she first came out. I did. I was one of the people that clowned her pretty hard when she first came out because so much of what she said sounded ridiculous. But the longer we see Diddy, the more it's almost like, what the hell what are you going to hear that's going to shock you about the diddler? Straight up. What the hell are you going to hear that's going to shock you about Diddy? It's just so out of control. It really is. But this is going to be, I think this is going to be I do believe this is going to be a guilty verdict. I absolutely believe that this is going to be yeah, you know something? Professor Patty says the feds tend to have a great idea of his past. I was surprised they didn't sequester the jury. It's difficult with Fed cases. What it is, I don't think, first of all, it costs a fortune. And I don't think it's worked very well in the times that they've done it. Yes, you're guaranteed that nobody's going to pay off a juror. But having jurors hang out 24 hours a day, I don't think is a really good idea, right? The judge is going to say to them, don't talk about this case. What the hell else are you going to talk about? For real. What do you guys have in common other than that? You know what? I wonder how many Diddys there are. Yeah. Well, that we don't know of. A lot of people bring this up. This is something that we hear all the time. And what I think you can say with some confidence is that the music industry and to a greater extent just all of Hollywood, any one of those kind of gigs where somebody can sit across from you and say, I can either say yes or no right now, right? If I say yes, you're going to be rich, you're going to be famous. Every dream you ever had is going to come true all at once. I can make that happen. Or I can make sure that doesn't happen. In fact, I can make sure you never get a part ever anywhere you go for as long as you live. I'm that kind of guy. Blackball you like that. Anytime there is an industry where someone has that kind of power, if it's a guy, that dude is going to end up doing some messed up stuff. He's going to have girls getting on their knees to get those kinds of jobs. They have guys getting on their knees to get those kinds of jobs. And this has been going on for so long, right? This has been going on for so damn long that we joke about it, don't we? I mean, casting couch. The fact that there's a phrase for it should probably tell you that this has been going on a long, long time, right? And it's well, I think that there's probably a bunch of them out there, and the price is your soul. Make no mistake. And you know what's nuts? Do you know how today, when we're done with this, don't leave now. I need all of you. But when we're done today, go and start looking up artists who have said on camera, I sold my soul to Satan. If you look that up, it will blow your mind. It will absolutely blow your mind. This is another great question. What are your thoughts on the children's reactions? Well, I believe that that Diddy is still orchestrating all of that. The very first time that they brought on some male sex workers, Diddy didn't want his daughters there, right? Interesting. his daughters could listen to days of testimony about him beating the crap out of women. That wasn't a problem, apparently. All of the stuff about the freak-offs and all of this stuff. But when the first male sex worker started to come in, they had to get all of the kids out of there. I think Diddy doesn't want his kids to hear that maybe he's not all that straight. Right? I think that most people can say, most people can assume that you don't have to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist to say, this is a guy who hates the fact that he's gay and he can't live with that. And he blames women. In my opinion, he blames women for the fact that he's more aroused by men than women. And he takes it out on them. He also, by the way, you ready to get really angry? He also takes it out on animals. There was testimony today, and I'm not going to get into details because nobody wants to hear it. Right? But it was a dog in this particular instant. And likes to beat on dogs too. He is a guy that seems to take an awful lot of pleasure in hurting people, hurting things, right? Things he's stronger than, right? He's not out there fighting anybody 6'4" and 230 pounds, right? That's not what Diddy's doing. Diddy's hitting women. He's hitting animals. Diddy hits people that he thinks if they hit back, he'll have no problem just completely taking this person out. It's about control for him, right? It's about control. Also, allegedly, he's hung like a wood tick. Right? Yeah. Looks like a grub worm wearing a turtleneck sweater. And because of that, he's got this beautiful woman that he's dating. And in his mind, he just cannot satisfy this girl. Right? He just simply can't satisfy. So what he does is he brings in other men to do it. Right? Guys that are hung like horses because he's going, you're right, my pinky is too big. He wants to see her hurt. He's going to make her pay for being a woman. For real. So his kids I have a friend that has been in court, and they say that his kids instantly do this one, right? Start putting their feet up as soon as the jury's out of the room, right? The second the jury is out of the room, the kids are acting like asses. But, I mean, they were raised by Sean Combs, right? What could possibly go wrong? We know that one of his sons is facing the same charges, right? For allegedly trying to rape the Omarkey girl on that yacht. What does it say about a man who knows he is guilty of all of this crap and puts his family through this to carry all the shame and humility? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, spot on, right? If this was a stand-up cat, he would have pled guilty to this shit to keep his family from going through it because he's going to catch the same sentence. He would have actually, because of how the feds work, you get 3 points as a downward departure if you plead guilty. Because you're saving them all that money, they will knock 3 levels down. And that's going to be usually a lot of time. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot of time. 2 years, 3 years, you're like, that's not a lot of time. Yeah, let me know when you're sitting in prison and you got 3 more years to do, right? Now it's a lot of time. Now it's a hell of a lot of time. But it's a great point. I was talking about this the other day. I knew a guy that sold a bunch of blow, right? Made a ton of money selling blow. But when he got caught, instead of hiring the greatest attorney on planet Earth, he just took a public defender. And he said, you know what? I didn't sell drugs to give all of that money back. So if I'm going to go to prison, I'd be much better off if my family had the money than a lawyer, right? I don't want a lawyer having it. And yeah, I mean, he went to prison for basically the rest of his natural life. But that's a stand-up cat. That's a person that says, I'm not going to take food out of my kid's mouth or out of my wife's mouth so we can try to defend something that I know I'm guilty of. Right? Humble human. I am looking forward to being there. Yeah, I am too, actually. I'm really looking forward to being there. And it's gonna, hello, Joanne. it's going to compress a lot of, hey, Sonny, a lot of the stuff that we were going to be doing, which is a little unfortunate. I mean, we had a couple of grand plans that we were going to do before we moved out into our new forever home. Unfortunately, this illness has set everything back, so we're probably gonna have to forego the some of the other travel we were gonna do, but it's all good. We're still gonna get to catch some of the Diddy case, and we're gonna take you guys with us. That's what it's all about, taking you with us. You thought you had to qualify for a public defender. You do. It is really easy to qualify for a public defender. It is a bureaucracy to beat hell. Drug dealers, as a rule of thumb, will not file tax returns or any of those things. They tend to keep, money stashed and things like that. I have a family member, Professor Patty. I have a family member that is in the hospital and has been for a couple of days. So it is. We were actually going to be. We should have already been on our way to the Diddy trial, but we stayed here to be with family. And this next week coming up, we will be heading out to New York. The city's so nice, they named it twice. Sonny says, public pretender. I got a feeling Sonny might have actually been represented by one, because that is what the fellas call them, right? Public pretenders. They say if you have the right to remain silent. If you can't afford an attorney, one will be provided for you by the state. They should say, we'll give you somebody fresh out of law school that has never represented anybody. And the crazy thing is, honest to God, that's probably going to be the best lawyer you ever had. For real. If you get a public defender that's brand new, right? They just want to represent somebody. Like they want to go in there and maybe have a trial, right? They're fired up. Catch that same public defender a year later, and it's just as fast as you can go. I've been represented by public defenders before, and it's amazing because you show up in court. First time I went to prison, it was a state case, and I'm in the courtroom, and the attorney walks up and kneels down next to me. Lovely woman, by the way, really a very, very kind woman. I ended up getting to know her, not like dating know her, but she was friends with someone I knew, and she's just but she ran the entire public defender thing for the city I was in, and I met her the day I was going to be, the day I was being sentenced, for real, because I pled guilty and there was the PSI and all that crap. But I have never met my attorney. In 30 seconds, I'm going in front of the judge, and this woman is going to argue why I shouldn't get a 10-year sentence. She doesn't know the first thing about me. She doesn't know the first thing about the case. But what's sad is it's just that nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Right? Because if you could have seen me on paper at that point, like when they picked me up, I think I had 6 open warrants, right? Just a degenerate, honestly, a degenerate. But the judge acquiesced instantly. Right? And why not? See, it has to go this way. When the court's done, the prosecuting attorney and the defense attorney probably go and have lunch. They certainly hang out and know each other really well. And then again, same kind of shit, right? Hey, do me a favor. I want to get a deal on this Scoville dude, and I'll let you win on the next one. No joke. My ex said she's heard that phrase 60, 70 times. It's all right. I'll let you win next time. You're talking about someone's life, right? For whatever reason, you're not the one that they're going to fight really hard for, but they'll fight really hard on the next one. We'll let you win that next one. It's pretty damn ugly. So my advice to you would be, don't break any laws. Right? Don't commit any felonies, and then you don't have to get a friggin' attorney, right? It is disgusting, unicorn love, and it is absolutely rampant. You will not find a court anywhere in the U.S. that conversation is not being every day. Every day they go back and forth, right? Come on, give me a deal on this one. I paid for a very expensive attorney in the feds, a very expensive attorney, and I got nothing for my money. I'm not joking you. I got nothing. In fact, I could have gone in without him, pled guilty, and done better. I really could. It was just a shit show all the way around. But right before we walked in, he goes, I ought to have you out in 26 months. And I said, I go, Dennis, the guidelines are almost 13 years. And he said, guidelines? I eat guidelines for breakfast. And then he walked in and the judge ate his lunch. I worked for a criminal attorney, and they all know each other. Attorneys love inside info on people, and I never met one that doesn't trust anyone. Yeah. Yeah, we know. You definitely know some of them, because that had been my experience too. I think he won't have much money after he pays off his lawyers, that the rest he will be paying on the inside to stay alive. Yeah, I think that's probably pretty solid. I think he won't have much money after he pays off his lawyers, that the rest he will be paying on the inside to stay alive. Family will get nothing but the shame and blacklisted in the world. Boy, there's a lot of truth to that. You have any idea how tough it's going to be his kids when this is over? I think the daughters might be able to, I don't know, duck away from this more. But, we've heard stories of freak-offs where dad and son were in the room at the same time. Threw up in my mouth a little bit. The prospect of either doing something like that with my dad or my son is just such a disgusting concept. But that's the Diddy verse, right? Professor Patty says Diddy's worth is still at 400 million. Still, I've heard he is spending 100,000 a week, and won't the feds take everything? He has most money in his kids and his mom's. Yeah, they absolutely. He has hidden his money in a lot of places. Forensically, that doesn't really help you. I promise that the feds are really good about figuring out. They love seizing assets. They love seizing assets, and judges are notoriously liberal in what they allow them to do when it comes to seizing assets. But I would be really surprised. I've heard the same number, by the way, Professor Patty. I have heard the same number of $400 million. I don't think he was even worth $400 million before they came to get him. I know they were claiming $700 million, but if you see how they come up with these numbers, it's absolutely fascinating, right? Elon Musk, I think that guy's worth $100 billion, right? Could he go to the bank and get you $100 billion? Of course not. He has stock in companies and that value, and he's got land and he's got all this stuff. All of Diddy's holdings at one time put him in that 700 million range. But Revolt is gone. Sean John is gone. The perfumes and the colognes gone. The glasses gone. There's nothing left. All he's got is the Bad Boy Music catalog, which they estimated at the beginning of this was worth somewhere between 120 and $240 million. But with everything that has just happened, I don't think anybody's going to be ready to buy it for that. I mean, that doesn't mean that all the music is going to suck because of what Diddy did, but it gives the people buying a little bit of negotiating power, right? When you go, I'd like 240 million. Yeah, I bet you would. But, your dad's a criminal, and best we could do would be 80. And you watch how fast his kids or whoever it is sell him out and take that deal. This is a group of people. This is kids who have they were born with a silver spoon up their nose. How's that expression go? Silver spoon in their mouth. They were born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and that's how they've lived, right? Bentleys and Porsches and all of this crap, right? So, yeah, it's not liquid, to be sure. Exactly, it's property and things like that, and it's also. There's also a lot of that would be tied up in business ventures and things. And man, Sean John was worth a fortune, right? That company, the value in it was huge, right? It was actually very, very successful company. And then he didn't own Ciroc, but he had a good deal going with a liquor brand, and he was getting a lot of money for pushing Ciroc. He's out of that. Right, he is out of that. He's sold out of that. He really is in a world of hurt in terms of finances. He has property, but you also have to realize what happens to rich people when they stop bringing money in. Right, that G5 he's got, that jet, he's going to have to pay for that every single month, and he's not using it. He's paying a bunch of money for it. About a year ago, everyone was saying, "Hey, the Diddy jet has been spotted in Australia." right? What do you think's going on? Obviously, he's over there doing something, or his people are over there doing something. He was renting that baby out, right? He's renting it out to anybody that wants to rent a Gulfstream because he needs the money. Needs to offset. I mean, hell, dude, those things are what, $50 million, $60 million? Yeah, make that over 30 years, right? Get a 30-year note on that. Put down 5%. Your bills are going to be pretty ugly. He should have had shares in baby oil. Good. Well played. Yeah, well played. Johnson & Johnson does not want anything to do with him. Can't he stop making payments on the jet? Yeah, he probably could, right? He probably could. But he's going to fight for as long as possible to not let that happen. And the reason that he's going to fight as long as he can before that happens is the shame of them saying, yeah, Diddy can't afford his jet anymore. Image is a really big thing to this guy, in my opinion. Yes, I did notice that. After he sued Diageo, that does seem to be when the shit hit the fan for Sean Combs. And you know what? They are absolutely one of the gnarliest and owned by an even more gnarly company. There's like 3 companies that own everything on planet Earth. And one of those companies has a large share in Diageo. And when you're talking about billions of dollars, if you got to spend $1.5 million on private investigators to get all the dirt you possibly can on Diddy, why wouldn't you? Diddy came out to a group that he had been working with really well and said, y'all are a bunch of racist bastards, right? You hate black people. What? How to deal with this dude? What they said was they weren't pushing certain products in the hood. That's marketing. It's not racist, right? I'm not being disrespectful, but there are certain, like a Rolex dealership, you probably don't want to put it on the cheapest street in North America, right? Where nobody owns any property and nobody has any money, right? You market to the audience. So if your audience doesn't have Ciroc kind of money, Ciroc, whatever, or any of the other brands, then you're gonna take down a little bit less, and you're gonna, yeah. So, but when you start yelling racist, you better be really careful, right? Because Diageo, man, right? BlackRock. Do a little research into Diageo, and you'll find BlackRock. Rub-a-dub-dub, 6 peeps in a tub. Nice. Yes, the vodka is gone, says Susie Style. Everything is gone. He's got the catalog. And by the way, if you look at Bad Boy, the studios in New York, looks like what everything looked like after the Black Lives Matter rallies or protests or whatever. It looks burned out. There's trash all over the ground. It looks ghetto. It's absolutely, there's nothing there. Right? Went from being that big deal to nothing. And very often they get into I was watching the other day, and somebody was going through a house that Mary J. Blige used to live in. It's in the hills up in California, and it's one of those abandoned buildings. The Stringers were going through it, but they said she was paying like $35,000 a month to rent this house. What? Holy hell, man! God, that's a lot of money. Wouldn't you buy something? It looks like a dump now. You saw it too, girl? Yeah, that is ugly. And I'll tell you something. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or sound cool or anything else, but look at the stuff in there too, man. I mean, they got a lot of Formica. They got a lot of stuff that just didn't look like it ought to be in a $30,000 a month house. A lot of that stuff just looked cheap. And the whole place is concrete. Like there was nothing. It was very utilitarian, very old school Moscow or prison, done in a nice reminiscent of a prison. The Dids got greedy and his house of cards came tumbling down and he crossed the wrong people. You're damn right, Lisa. You're damn right. He crossed the wrong people. This is a theory that I absolutely subscribe to. I could see Diageo. It's in their best interest to get as much dirt on this dude as you possibly could. By the way, maybe they weren't even trying to get dirt. but you would protect an investment of this size. I mean, he was bringing in billions for them, huge money. So you might hire a couple of private investigators just to sort of follow him around. And if he's getting out of control, you would intervene. But what if you got them out there following him and they come back and go, man, he beat the crap out of a woman in a restaurant. For real, like bad. He beat the hell out of this woman. And all of this stuff starts coming out, right? Well, if you're Diageo, right, this guy just called you a racist. I don't think it'd be a really good idea to mess with people with that kind of power, but that's just my opinion, people. All right, folks, you know what's funny? I was gonna stop on here and just say this is gonna be a short one, but because all I was gonna do was a little proof of life thing so that you guys knew I was all right. I don't like people getting worried, but we started to have some fun, so I stuck around. And what would be your best guess as to what Fed pen Diddy will be sent to if found guilty and why? He will be sent to, in my opinion, he will either be sent to Coleman in Florida, to Terre Haute Penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana, or to, where's the other one? Oh, Tucson, Arizona's got a penitentiary as well. USP, United States Penitentiaries, there's less of those than there are FCIs. Diddy ain't going to an FCI. The stuff he's being charged with, his custody level, hey, Just Joan, his custody level is going to be very high, and he's going to need protective custody. That means that there are 3 joints they can send them to. I mean, they have for USPs, for penitentiaries, for people with higher, yeah, Coleman is in Florida. Where in Florida, I'm not sure. Wow. I didn't. So those are going to be guaranteed. He's going to be at one of those. No two ways about it, because they're going to have to protect him. Really? Jag hasn't been posting since last week outside court. Can she have a gag order or surprise witness as she's silent? I'd be really surprised if she was issued a gag order. I think we would probably know about it. Honestly, that would be a very strange. Now, maybe they're planning on calling her as a witness. I can't imagine, and I don't mean any disrespect to Jag, but I can't imagine them wanting to put her on the stand, right? When you've had a colorful life, the cross-examination is going to kill you. I wouldn't get on a stand for nothing, right? I mean, they're gonna start off and go over my criminal history from the first pack of gum that I stole to how many banks I did, and they're just gonna continue to tear you apart. There's nothing scarier in the entire world. For always, forever, for life says, I say Indiana. I think that's probably a pretty safe bet. Honestly, that could end up. Trying to think if there's any reason that they would send them to one of the other ones instead. I think, if I'm not mistaken, all 3 have a medical facility there. So there's not much. There's not much that would force him out of one of the prisons and into another. So yeah, that's probably as good a guess as any other. Terre Haute, Indiana. But yeah, that's where he's going to go when they get him convicted. Yeah, she has a little record. I mean, I do too. But just here's the other thing. Content creators usually don't assume that they're going to be on the stand, right? There's thousands and thousands of hours, right, of talking on the internet. And if you're going to end up being called as a witness or whatever, they're going to have 4 or 5 paralegals going through every single thing you have ever said online, and they're going to try to get you to look stupid. They reported the 3rd witness and lawyer were missing. Jag follows suit. My understanding is that the 3rd, and I heard the same thing, by the way. But I don't think she's missing. Now, she may have decided she doesn't want to testify, but I don't think she's missing. I could be wrong. We'll see how that one plays out. Which of those three is the worst? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how to answer that. Yeah, I've been to the FCIs at a lot of those places. I don't know what the USPs would be like. It's a good question. They probably all suck pretty equally. How long before the kids stop visiting? Well, if they can keep getting money out of this, then they won't stop. I think they'll keep going up there to see the old man as long as they can get him to pay the car payments. But right around the time Diddy starts to dry up in his support, they'll forget about him. That's my opinion. It's just it's a scary concept. You heard she sent an email testimony. A lot. I mean, I guess that's possible. Usually that kind of testimony is frowned upon big time because the defense then doesn't get an opportunity to to rip her apart. Basically, if it's allowing somebody to put their testimony in with no rebuttal, with nobody questioning anything that you said. So I don't know, but we'll see what happens. Have the daughters gone to visit? I don't know the answer to that. I know that in the very beginning, there were a lot of people that were going up and seeing him. But I don't know whether or not that's keeping up. I know that he's manipulating these kids still. Like that thing we saw, I love you, Daddy. And they're all sitting around by the phone and he was talking. Like that was just completely Diddy. And we know because that was in the little notebook, but that's him trying to rehab his reputation. Right? And why not? Couldn't get any worse. For real. Could not get any worse. Yeah. I mean, look, and by the way, you know something? You know I'm not hacking on anybody, right? Don't use her as an example. Use me as an example. But anytime the person that you're putting on the stand is a felon, right, or has been convicted of anything, you're done. And God forbid they ever admitted to being addicted to drugs, like in particular heroin. It is assumed, no lie, ask any attorney. It is assumed that if you admit that you were addicted to heroin, nothing that you say on the stand, they're not going to take any of it. Because heroin addicts lie to get heroin. Pretty much across the board, and they're just considered dishonest. One of the boys is definitely charged with sexually assaulting or trying to rape, or I'm not exactly sure how they wrote it up. A woman whose last name is O'Markey. She was working as an employee on one of those big, huge mega yachts that Diddy had been renting. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think Suge Knight would testify, right? Suge Knight's a gangster, like the real thing, and he isn't going to testify. Like, he didn't roll on anybody. He just went to prison to do a long sentence. He really does. He's about that life. If they brought him there, he'd be a hostile witness. I don't think that they could get him to talk. However, Professor Patty, have a nice weekend. However, they will pull somebody out of jail to get him to testify. That's no big deal. That's no big deal. That happens all the time. Happens all of the time. Yes, he did. On the yacht, like father, like son. Yeah, that's kind of how it looks, doesn't it? That really is kind of how it looks. All right, people. We're going to wrap this one up. I'm going to go down and see my family. Next week, folks. Next week, Johnny Scoville and myself will be wheels up. And I'm really looking forward to taking you with us. It's going to be a good time. A good time will be had by all. And I want to thank all of you for stopping in tonight. I really do. I know that there's a lot of choices that you can make when flying YouTube Air, and we are really glad that you chose the lifeboat. Between now and the next time I see you, try to reduce a little harm. Let's pound out this one real quick. Do you think? What do you think about Jay-Z? Will he get charged? Not yet. If all of the smoke about that dude is real, then they're going to get him eventually. One of the things that sucks about your biggest competition getting arrested and prosecuted is, they got to look for the next Diddy, right? They're going to look for the next guy to get. And that very well could be Jay-Z. All righty, people. Do yourself a favor and reduce a little harm and quit looking for happiness in the same place you lost it. Have a good night, all. Love you.